Back in 1955, the very first DS model was years ahead of its time. Fast forward to the present day, and this DS3 offers design featuring shades of the same kind of stylish innovation. A light refresh has added additional engine options, more media connectivity, and greater scope for individuality, whether you choose hatch or cabrio body styles. This car's fundamental fashionability, though, is what will really sustain sales. It still gets people talking.
This DS3 was the car that rejuvenated the fortunes of its Citroën maker following this model's original launch in 2010. Young, affluent, style-conscious customers were tempted by its blend of fashionable, sporty practicality and Parisian style. Now, this design must perform a similarly pivotal role for the freshly formed DS brand as the entry point to the company's likeable lineup. Now, it's quite possible that you're already very familiar with this car, at least in its original form. And if so, then you'll know that it's a trendy, small urban trinket in the Mini or Fiat 500 mould. Or almost. The original DS3 designers certainly had their eyes on cars of that kind, but instead of copying rivals with a retro look, they instead championed a fresher, more forward-thinking shape that had the added advantage of much improved practicality. It meant that DS3 owners could enjoy Sloane Street style with Sainsbury's sensibility. This was a winning combination, further developed by the launch of a cabrio version in 2013 and the introduction of more up-to-date engine wear a year later. As a result, sales momentum was maintained, and by the end of 2015, over 390,000 DS3 models had been sold. By then, though, things were changing. The DS concept this car had first pioneered had swiftly been extended into larger DS4 and DS5 models, these cars creating a Citroën sub-brand so successful that it was decided DS should be created as a premium automaker in its own right. The DS4 and DS5 ranges were quickly restyled and repositioned within this newly formed Marks model lineup, and the DS3 followed suit in early 2016, creating the car that we're going to look at here. There's much more to this improved DS3, though, than merely a different badge on the bonnet. Smarter styling is complemented by the addition of two fresh engines to the lineup, including one for the kind of properly potent hot hatch variant that the standard model range has never had. There's also more equipment, extra scope for personalisation, and inside, extra media connectivity via a smartly high-tech 7-inch colour touchscreen. Will it all be enough, though, to keep this car current in the face of a much improved crop of fashionable rivals? Let's find out. So, what's it like to drive? Well, you get in and settle into a sculpted seat that's set sporty and low. Ahead of you, the compact steering wheel feels, well, just right, and all the vital dials are set in a deeply cowled, chrome-edged triple pod. Turn the key, and the speedo and rev counter zip around their dials and return to zero. You're ready to go. On the move, it's hard to believe that all the underpinnings of this car are basically borrowed from a conventional Citroën C3 Super Mini. The lower body and the stiff suspension setup give this model a very different feel, as does the precisely weighted electric power steering, offering assistance when you need it and plenty of road feel when you don't. The damping also offers the best of both worlds too, making you aware of bumpy surfaces but spiriting away the aftershock that you could do without. It makes a Mini feel about as subtly sprung as a go-kart. Only the rather long-throw gear change could be slicker. Under the bonnet of mainstream hardtop and cabrio models, there's a wide choice of engines. If performance isn't an issue, then the entry-level 3-cylinder 1.2-litre PureTech 82 brake horsepower normally aspirated power plant may be sufficient, although it does take 12.3 seconds to reach 62 miles an hour on the way to just 108 miles an hour. The turbocharged PureTech 110 version of the same power plant has a bit more poke, of course, improving those figures to 9.6 seconds and 118 miles an hour. And from this point, there are two fresh options for this revised range. The first of these is the opportunity to order the PureTech 110 power plant with the PSA Group's impressively efficient E86 automatic gearbox. Now, if you want auto transmission and a DS3, then this is the engine that you have to have. Second is the addition to the range of the PureTech turbo engine and a pokier 130 PS state of tune, in which guise it makes 62 miles an hour in 8.8 seconds en route to 127 miles an hour. The addition of that PureTech 130 engine to the lineup is significant, as for most petrol buyers, the availability of this unit will make it unnecessary to stretch up to the pokier 1.6-litre THP turbo units that previously you had to have if you wanted your DS3 to have really vivacious performance. In some ways that's a pity, because the THP units in question are much better than they used to be, tweaked for extra power and efficiency. Take the 165 brake horsepower unit we're trying here, which makes 62 miles an hour in 7.5 seconds en route to 135 miles per hour. Yet, when driven more sedately, it's still supposed to be capable of over 50 miles per gallon on the combined cycle. A 208 brake horsepower version of the same THP engine is used in the fastest hot hatch performance version. This is the first time that the standard model range has had a proper GTI derivative, and to celebrate, the DS engineers have done the job properly, lowering the suspension by 15mm, widening the track, fitting larger front and rear brake discs, and adding in a Torsen limited slip differential for extra traction through the bends. And you'll make good use of all of this too if you exercise sprightly performance that'll see 62 miles an hour flash by in just 6.5 seconds on the way to 143 miles per hour. As for diesel power, well, there's a choice of two versions of the PSA Group's usual 1.6-litre Blue Hdi diesel. The lesser Blue Hdi 100 power plant gets you to 62 miles an hour in 10.8 seconds en route to 117 miles an hour. Ideally, though, you'll want to try and stretch to the engine that offers a better balance of power and parsimony, the Blue Hdi 120 unit. This manages rest to 62 miles an hour in 9.3 seconds on the way to 118 miles an hour, while still retaining the potential to deliver less than 95 grams per kilometre of CO2 and nearly 80 miles per gallon on the combined cycle. And that is impressive. Plenty of trendy, eager small cars can match the kind of performance figures I've just quoted for variants across the DS3 range. Few, though, can match the way this car balances comfort with a can-do attitude when it comes to attacking your favourite B-road. For the full DS3 experience in this respect, you have to choose this 1.6-litre THP petrol turbo model, which, for enthusiasts, remains one of the best cars the Peugeot Citroën Group has produced since the glorious Peugeot 205 GTI and Citroën Saxo VTS hot hatches of the 90s. Fortunately, unlike those cars, you're not stuck with an awful din when you venture onto the highway, thanks to clever soundproofing that promotes refinement but still lets you enjoy the engine. Base diesel and petrol models will be louder at cruising speeds than their pokier counterparts, as their gearboxes are limited to 5 speeds rather than 6. Talking of refinement, here we've got the Cabrio version, a car that doesn't buffet you about as a normal small convertible would when the roof's down, since, well, it isn't a normal small convertible. In essence, you could say that this car's folding top is little more than a giant folding sunroof, but in practice, it's much more than that. True, you do never get the full wind in the hair feeling that you would in a classic conventional cabriolet lacking these fixed side panels, but there really is quite enough exposure to the elements in this fully open position to give you that real cabrio feeling. Although turbulence is reduced because you're better hidden from the blustery conditions. We should also point out that, as with any proper convertible, rearward vision with the roof down is pretty awful, hence the standard fitment of rear parking sensors. Our favourite feature, though, relates to the way, which is almost unique in our experience with convertible cars, that this roof allows you to instantly react to the conditions you're driving in. Say, for example, you're roofed down on the motorway in a rival Fiat 500c or Mini convertible, and the heavens suddenly open. Well, just as you would in pretty much any drop top, you're going to get wet. The Fiat's roof only operates at speeds below 37 miles an hour, while the Mini's only works below 18 miles per hour. Which means in these cars that putting up the top either has to wait until you reach the next junction, wet and frustrated, or you have to stop in a potentially dangerous position on the hard shoulder and wait for the roof mechanics to do their thing as the raindrops pound upon your head. With this DS3, there's none of that. Press this little button on the overhead console and you can open or close the roof in just 16 seconds at any speed up to 75 miles an hour. And with the roof closed, refinement is near on as good as it is in a fixed-top DS3. And when things brighten up a bit, or you find yourself on a slower road, another jab at the roof button can open things up again to various fixed positions, or anywhere you like in between. As the roof opens, a standard pop-up deflector at the front of the windscreen flips up to reduce turbulence in the cabin. And this is a feature first introduced on Mercedes E-Class Cabriolet, a car twice this one's price. And you can go further still by fitting an air deflector net. To the uninitiated, the DS3 is still quite a sight. Yes, the basic shape is that of a traditional Super Mini, but it's been developed with a kind of flair that's usually reserved for concept cars. Distinctive curves marking extremities that see the wheels pushed right out to the corners, producing a squat, purposeful stance. The real drama, however, is in the detail, from that shark fin B-pillar to the contrasting floating roof panel and the distinct sill line connecting the wheel arches. The DS3 remains ferociously unconventional. That move to full DS branding has brought with it the opportunity to restyle the front end, where the vertical grille now proudly incorporates the DS Wings brand logo and extends smoothly into headlights that feature LED vision xenon technology on plusher variants like this one. Designed to resemble jewels, these lamps incorporate scrolling indicators and deliver a unique lighting signature that the brand plans to extend right across its future model range. There are also LED daytime running lights, and top variants like these have LED front fog lamps too. At the back, there are equally distinctive 3D LED light clusters, and the whole effect is topped and tailed by this pert roof spoiler and these chromed exhaust pipes. Like a Mini, there's endless possibilities for personalisation. Even your key is matched to the paintwork. And there's plenty of scope for your car to look as stunning or as stunningly bad as you like. Take the roof. On fixed-top versions, it can be ordered not only with a contrasting colour, but also with decals, flower print, a pixelated pattern, or even zebra stripes. Don't blame us, though, if you tick the box for something like that and then struggle to sell your car on afterwards. If you go for this Cabrio model, then there are 4 different roof designs. This standard black finish, emerald, DS monogram, which features the brand logo, and so-called infinite blue, with fabric that weaves in different coloured threads of blue and violet, each reacting differently to the light. Talking of the Cabrio version, well, at first glance, you would be forgiven for not realising this to be a soft-top variant at all. After all, the profile of this model is identical to that of its fixed-top counterpart, the fabric opening section limited to the very top of the car. Actually, though, the roof mechanism is quite sophisticated, made up of over 180 different parts and electrically operated by a button on the overhead console that impressively can retract the roof at any speed up to 75 miles an hour. Prodding the button once will slide the canvas back so that it concertinas like a busker's accordion above a rear screen, which, if you continue to press the button, will hinge forward to lie on the parcel shelf before the folded canvas sandwich motors back to take its place. As with the folding tops provided by most rivals, you'll find that when this one's retracted, it almost totally blocks rearward vision, hence the Cabrio variant's standard parking sensors. The roof acrobatics take only 16 seconds from start to finish. When the whole thing's open, there's a pop-up wind deflector that springs out of the top roof rail to quell the worst of the turbulence. Of course, when you do have the roof down, you don't want it taking up so much space at the back that there's no room for people or packages. And in this DS3, it doesn't. Take rear cargo space, accessible via a cantilevered boot lid that rises neatly outwards and upwards in a circular motion. That means you can open it even when parked close to obstruction. It's unfortunate that once it is open, the aperture available is pretty small, although actually the capacity on offer is greater than it first appears, 245 litres in all. Now that's 30 litres more than you get in a rival Mini convertible and 63 litres more than you get in an equivalent Fiat 500c. Plus, you can extend it by folding down the same 60/40 split folding rear bench that you'll find on the DS3 hatch, revealing up to 980 litres. Time to switch our attention back to the hatch model. Here there's a 285 litre boot that's pretty much equal in size to the space you get in a practical Ford Fiesta. And that makes it around 35% bigger than the trunk offered by an ordinary Mini, but nearly twice as large as the cargo area found in stylised rivals like Fiat's 500 or Vauxhall's Adam. Unfortunately, there's quite a high loading lip though to get your stuff over before you can access it. Tie-down points and an elasticated side strap are provided for convenience, but there's no 12-volt socket and no space beneath the boot floor if, as we'd recommend, you make sure that a proper temporary spare wheel is fitted. Push forward the 60/40 split folding rear bench and you get the same 980 litre capacity that I just showed you in the Cabrio version. Enough with the practicality. On to how this car is going to make you feel when you slip behind the wheel. Well, pretty smug and self-satisfied, we think, if you're moving into it from a conventional Super Mini. True, the design no longer feels as cutting edge as it once did, but the high-quality cabin ambiance that's always marked out this DS3 remains, with its piano black trimming and cool white lighting. Plusher models get this high-quality stitched leather on the door cards and on the steering wheel. And if you're prepared to pay a bit more, you can have the upholstery finished in that lovely quilted watch strap leather that gives the interior, well, a classier feel than anything else in the segment. The dashboard gets a soft touch fascia top finish, although scratchier plastics are used further down. Still, nice detailing distracts your attention from that as you admire the polished metal highlights and beautifully detailed instrument gauges. Now these are set into a trio of circular dials in a motif that appears again in the round cluster of ventilation controls on the centre console that you can colour match to your own personal choice. More importantly, with the exception of an armrest that slightly impedes the handbrake, the overall layout remains ergonomically sound. That upmarket feel further emphasised by a small, grippy, leather-covered steering wheel that feels really good to hold. The key change made as part of this model's move into full DS branding was the addition of this smart 7-inch colour touchscreen. It's standard across the range and has played a significant part in decluttering the dash. Its functionality removing no fewer than 21 buttons from the fascia. A pity though that it can't be activated by the kind of rotary controller that rival Mini and Audi A1 models get. Otherwise it works well, marshalling audio, telephone and driving trip computer functions, along with the eMyWay navigation system where that's fitted. The touchscreen also enables the DS brand to offer a wide range of media connectivity connected services in this car. Not only an internet browser, but also optional mirror screen functionality that provides access to the Mirror Link and Apple CarPlay systems, allowing you to duplicate the functionality of your smartphone onto this display. Via Apple CarPlay, drivers can intuitively make calls, consult maps, listen to music and check their messages, either by using the Siri voice recognition technology or via the touchscreen. Plus, Android and iOS users will want to download a clever My DS app that will update you on your car's fuel economy, its service schedule and even its parking location. Plus, Android users can listen to and send text messages via the app. Finally, a few words on practicalities. It's a pity that there are no proper cup holders and that the glove box is so small. Still, you do get a cubby in front of the gear stick and another one hidden away by your right knee. Plus, there's space for your smartphone underneath the handbrake near the 12-volt aux-in and USB sockets. Oh, time to move into the back. Now, unlike its rivals, the DS brand has no interest in developing a 5-door body style for this car, but potential buyers don't seem to mind. That's despite the fact that accessing the rear can be a bit tricky due to the huge B-pillar and the chunky front seats, although there's a grab handle thoughtfully positioned to aid the process. Once you're in place, the actual space provided isn't too bad, at least for two people anyway, provided they're not too tall and the journey involved isn't too long. There's certainly a vast amount more space back here than you would get in supposedly competitive models like the 3-door mini hatch, the Fiat 500, the Vauxhall Adam and the Alfa Romeo Mito. Occupants get these useful cut-out side pockets for storage too. What's even more impressive is the room that you get in the back of this cabrio version. Now, true, getting into the back isn't quite as easy as it would be in a full-blown soft top like a mini convertible, because you have to duck under the roof pillar as you would in any 3-door hatchback. Once you're there, though, there is an unusual bonus. As in the hatch model, there's the potential to theoretically take 3 passengers across the back seat. OK, so a trio of adults would be rather squashed if you tried to do that, but 3 small children would be fine with it. This kind of capability is unique in the small cabrio class and opens up soft-top ownership to family buyers who otherwise simply wouldn't be able to consider a car of this kind. The DS3 comes only in 3-door form, but does offer the choice of either conventional hatchback or cabrio body styles. Prices for mainstream models range primarily in the £13,000 to £25,000 bracket, and there's a premium of £2,300 to pay if you want the cabrio rather than the fixed-top version. If you want an automatic, then you have to choose the PureTech 110 petrol engine, which is offered with the brand's E86 auto transmission at a £1,500 premium. Actually, even if you want a manual model, we'd suggest that the PureTech 110 power plant might be a good place to start your search. You're looking at an asking price of around £15,500 for a fixed-top DS3 hatch model with this unit. Yes, that is £1,300 more than you'll pay for this car in its entry-level PureTech 82, guys. But the extra cash gets you a lot more, notably a higher level of trim and much pokier performance from an engine that's turbocharged rather than normally aspirated. Thanks to the addition of stop-and-start engine technology, the PureTech 110 unit is more efficient than its feebler counterpart too. So much so, in fact, that potential buyers might question the need to spend more on one of the blue Hdi Diesels. These, by the way, are priced from around £16,000 in hatch form. At the top of the lineup, the hot hatch performance variant starts from just over £20,000. Well, having introduced you to the DS3 range, we also need to brief you on its value proposition. Now, though it is possible to buy an entry-level version of this car for a lot less than you pay for a basic Mini, further up the range this Citroën is pitched slightly above its closest rival, reflecting, so the French brand claims, its extra space and equipment. Potential buyers might also note that it does cost a little more than the other trendy urban scoot that comes to mind in this segment, Fiat's 500. But, like another potential stylised rival, Vauxhall's Adam, that is a smaller, less mature-feeling car. I mean, our view, models like Alfa Romeo's Mito or Audi's A1 would offer a closer match. But mainstream versions of both those cars cost much the same kind of money as we're talking about here and aren't as well equipped. Overall, we can understand how this DS3's smart looks, more spacious cabin and greater scope for individualisation might leave you opting for one. In that case, whichever DS3 model you choose, hatch or cabrio, petrol or diesel, you should find your car to be decently equipped. Even the entry-level chic variants come with alloy wheels of at least 16 inches in size, LED daytime running lights, 3D LED rear lamps, sport suspension, an alarm and powered mirrors painted to match the roof colour. Inside there's air conditioning, a multifunction trip computer, a leather-covered multifunction steering wheel and cruise control with a built-in speed limiter to keep your licence safe in urban zones. An integrated air freshener is another nice touch, and infotainment is dealt with by a 7-inch colour touchscreen from which you control a 6-speaker DAB stereo and activate Bluetooth phone connectivity and media streaming. Cabrio customers get rear parking sensors too. As a potential buyer though, it's likely that you're going to want to find the relatively small extra premium to upgrade to the elegance trim level that most customers choose. Here, as well as getting a wider engine choice, you can expect to find LED front fog lights and dark tinted rear windows. Plus, if you have a hatch model, those rear parking sensors are added. Inside, there's more sophisticated automatic air conditioning and a greater premium feel, courtesy of sports seats, gloss black dashboard trimming and aluminium sports pedals. Our favourite feature though, standard on this car from elegance trim upwards, is the DS Connect box, and this really is very clever. It incorporates the kind of SOS and assistance functionality that we're now reasonably familiar with, which is there to automatically summon the emergency services if the airbags go off. Some of the other Connect box features, though, may be new to you. An included monitoring pack, for example, that gives you a virtual instrument manual. It can advise you of forthcoming service appointments and also give you eco-driving tips. Then there's the mapping pack that can be set to email you if your DS3 leaves a given geographical area. Useful, very useful, if, say, you lend your car to your son or daughter. Also included is a tracking function that'll give the police your vehicle's location if it's stolen. It's the finishing touch to a very complete package, but of course, you can always go further. The next spec level up is Prestige trim, and that's what we're trying here. This upgrades you to larger 17-inch alloy wheels and the brand's distinctive DS LED vision headlights. Plus you get power folding mirrors, auto headlamps and wipers, a rear spoiler, front parking sensors and a space-saver spare wheel rather than a fiddly tyre repair kit. Inside there's upgraded leather for the steering wheel, and that's also carried over onto the door trim. Plus there's an auto-dimming rear-view mirror, the audio system gets a hi-fi upgrade, and eMyWay satellite navigation is standard. Beyond that, there's really not much more that the top-of-the-range ultra prestige models can add. Only a reversing camera and that DS brand signature feature. Lovely quilted watch strap leather trim. The performance hot hatch variant is, as you would expect, more dynamically orientated. Key features including DS Performance Sport Suspension with a wider track, a sports exhaust and grippier DS Performance seats. Now, hopefully everything I've just said will help you narrow down your ideal DS3 trim level, but that is just a starting point where the car is deeply wedded to the concept of automotive personalisation as this one is. Now, apparently there are over 3 million possible combinations of colour, trim and interior fabric. Fortunately, DS groups these into various packs to make the process more manageable, but even so, you'll need to be ready for the fact that creating your ideal DS3 could be a lengthy process. The starting point is to select a primary paint colour. There are flat, metallic or pearlescent paint finishes, and whichever shade you choose, you get a matching key fob. You've then the option of a contrast pack that allows you to contrast colour the roof, something that's standard from Prestige trim upwards. Now here we've got an emerald finish, while other roof colour options include white, black, gold and a shade that DS calls topaz. You can then further complete the exterior effect by choosing from a range of stylised 16 or 17-inch alloy wheels. Now, if you're looking at the 17 inches, then you might want to get them as part of the Faubourg pack. It also includes monogrammed DS graphics for the roof and for the door mirrors. Now, there's also the option of chrome door mirrors, chromed rear window lower trim, and a DS Performance exterior graphics kit. Typical buyers will take equal care in specifying the interior. Now for the upholstery, there's a choice of either cloth and Alcantara or one of the leather packs. Go for this model's prestige trim and you can have that lovely watch strap leather finish I was talking about. You can decorate the dash too. This car, for example, has an emerald dashboard strip that matches the roof. Alternatively, the fascia can be enhanced with strips in gloss black or topaz, carbon fibre or matte grey. And you might also want to look at the Luxe pack that surrounds the instrument cluster with stitched leather and includes a leather gear knob, a perforated Napa leather sports steering wheel and premium carpet mats. As for less aesthetically orientated features, well, do bear in mind that many of the items I was talking about with the plusher trim levels can be individually ordered as options lower down the range. Again, there are various packs to make this process easier. For example, if you go for the elegance spec that we'd recommend, you can create much of the high-tech premium feel that you get in a pricier prestige variant by adding in a comfort pack and or a Nav Plus pack. And across the range, many owners will also want to pay the small amount extra that DS charges to add in mirror screen functionality. This allows you to replicate the functionality of your smartphone onto the central dash infotainment screen. You can even specify a DS-themed roof box. Finally, we'll mention the fact that most buyers of the hot hatch performance model will want the optional GT pack that'll give them sat-nav, front parking sensors and a reversing camera, a hi-fi upgrade and the active city brake safety setup. Yes, the active city brake system. I was coming to that. It's the major safety upgrade made to this car, although it's only standard if you can stretch to one of the pricey prestige variants. This is one of those autonomous braking systems that scans the road ahead as you drive in search of potential accident hazards, in this case at speeds of up to 18 miles an hour. Now, if one's detected, you'll be warned, and if you don't respond, or perhaps you aren't able to, the brakes will automatically be applied to decrease the severity of any resulting accident and hopefully alleviate it altogether. Unfortunately, the age of this design, though, precludes the installation of other sophisticated electronic assistance features, such as those that you find with some rivals. Things like driver fatigue detection features or lane departure warning setups. Still, all the familiar safety items are standard. Things like twin front, side and curtain airbags, ISOFIX child seat fastenings and tyre pressure monitoring. You can also expect to find ABS braking with emergency braking assistance to help in panic stops, and these will be advertised to following motorists by automatically activating hazard warning lights. Plus you get ESP stability control across the range to help should you enter a corner too fast or be on a slippery surface. And there's hill start assist to stop you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions. Under the bonnet, almost everything has changed with this car since its original launch back in 2010. Then the range was built around previous generation PSA Group units, Hdi Diesels and old-tech VTI petrol power plants. But even before this design switched to DS branding, these had been largely phased out. What we now have instead is a far more frugal portfolio of options based primarily around 1.2-litre 3-cylinder PureTech petrol units and a range of 1.6-litre Blue Hdi diesels. For this redeveloped car, the engineers have also upgraded the performance-minded end of the range, models using the older BMW-developed 1.6-litre THP petrol turbo engine. With these, tweaks have not only increased power, but also enhanced efficiency. As you would expect in this day and age, all the power plants on offer are Euro 6 compatible, and provided you avoid the entry-level PureTech 82 petrol unit, all are turbocharged and feature eco engine stop and start systems. That PureTech 82 normally aspirated variant suffers for its lack of these two features, although returns of 61.4 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 107 grams per kilometre of CO2 aren't too bad. You'd do much better, though, to stretch to the turbocharged PureTech 110 engine, which manages 65.7 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 100 grams per kilometre of CO2, almost 10% better than a rival petrol-powered Mini 1. These returns fall only slightly if you specify this engine with the E86 automatic gearbox to 61.4 miles per gallon and 105 grams per kilometre. Even the Pokia DS3 PureTech 130 brake horsepower variant does better than that 102 brake horsepower Mini, managing 62.8 miles per gallon and 105 grams per kilometre. Equally class competitive are the Blue HDI engines. The Blue HDI 100 models returns 83.1 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 87 grams per kilometre are almost the same as those of a Mini 1D and about 10% better than those of an Audi A1 1.6 TDI. And it's the same story if you move to the variant that we were trying earlier, the hatch, the Blue HDI 120 derivative. Here, the readings, 78.5 miles per gallon and 94 grams per kilometre, are virtually identical to those of the class-leading Mini Cooper D. So, how has all this been achieved? Well, with Blue Hdi Diesel technology, the answer lies in a clever three-step after-treatment system designed to better eliminate the four nasty pollutants that diesel units usually put out, namely unburnt hydrocarbons, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides and particulates. The first stage sees the unwanted hydrocarbon and carbon monoxide elements converted into harmless water and carbon dioxide. In the second stage, that nasty nitrogen oxide also gets converted into water via a selective catalytic reduction process using a urea and water mixture called AdBlue. Finally, in the third stage, a particulate emissions filter eliminates virtually all particulates at a stroke. And the result of all this is industry-leading diesel technology that many manufacturers are struggling to copy. Equal effort has been put into the PureTech technology used in the 3-cylinder 1.2-litre turbo petrol unit. It's around 25% cleaner and more frugal than the old 1.6-litre VTI power plant it replaced. The gains achieved by lighter weight, engine stop-and-start technology, and a 30% reduction in mechanical losses due to friction. Internal friction has also been reduced further up the range with the Pokia 1.6-litre THP turbo petrol engines, which are a little more frugal than before. The returns here aren't quite as eye-catching if you compare against direct rivals, but they are a lot more competitive than those this engine used to produce. Specifically, we're talking 50.4 miles per gallon and 129 grams per kilometre for the THP 165 model, and 52.3 miles per gallon and 125 grams per kilometre for the potent THP 210 hot hatch performance variant. What else? Well, to help owners get somewhere near the quoted returns on a regular basis, there is a gear shift indicator. Plus, you can benefit from a series of eco-driving tips provided by the DS Connect Box's monitoring pack. The trip computer readout on the central fascia infotainment screen even has an eco readout that tells you how long the eco stop and start system has been functioning on any given journey. Although, actually, we're not really sure why you'd ever want to know that. Residuals won't be quite as strong as they would be if you'd gone for a Mini or an Audi A1, but then you would, in that case, almost certainly have paid more up front. So it's a case of swings and roundabouts. In any case, we think that this DS model's depreciation showing will improve as the brand gets more established in the market. The warranty is the usual unremarkable 3-year, 60,000 mile affair, although it is extendable for an extra 1 or 2 years at additional cost. You also get 3 years of DS roadside assistance and a 12-year anti-corrosion warranty. Service intervals, well, they're every 16,000 miles for mainstream models or every 20,000 miles for the Pokia THP petrol models. You can keep on top of your car's maintenance schedule via a downloadable My DS app that'll also update you on your car's fuel economy. Finally, let's talk about insurance. For the base PureTech 82 petrol variant, you're looking at Group 12E for the hatch or Group 14E for the cabrio. Upgrade to the PureTech 110 turbo engine, and you're looking at Group 18E for the hatch and 21A for the cabrio. The PureTech 130 is Group 21E for the hatch and Group 24A for the cabrio. Onto the Pokia 1.6-litre THP models. The THP 165 is rated at either Group 27E or Group 28E for the hatch and 30A or 31A for the cabrio. And if you go for the hot hatch performance variant, you're looking at Group 36A for the hatch or Group 39D for the cabrio. So we'll finish with the Blue Hdi Diesels. The Blue Hdi 100 is rated at either Group 21E or 23E in hatch form or 23A as a cabrio. And the blue HDI 120 variant pitches in at either 23E or 26E in hatch form or Group 28A in cabrio guise. You can see why the DS3 has struck such a chord with its customers. Even today, the basic shape looks fresh and fashionable, and it's personalisable to an extent that just isn't possible with many rivals. Plus, the subtle DS branded restyle is just enough to keep the design feeling current. We approve of the more fundamental changes made here too. The PureTech 130 petrol engine, the performance hot hatch variant, and the 7-inch infotainment colour touchscreen for the cabin with its extra media connectivity. These build upon the changes already made to this car towards the end of its life as a Citroën. Things like the active city brake system and the frugal blue Hdi Diesel technology. It all means that if you think you already know this DS3, and you probably don't, the brand letters stand for a different spirit, and this car now aims to offer just that. Rivals remain either conventionally dull or limited by the retro appeal they try and recreate, which leaves this affordable DS model with a clearly defined and in many ways still quite unique appeal in both hatch and cabrio guises. In summary then, if 3 doors are sufficient and your fashionable trendiness must keep some practical perspective, it's hard to ignore.